John and David were both patients in a mental hospital. One day, while they were walking, they passed the hospital swimming pool, and John suddenly dove into the deep end. He sank to the bottom and stayed there. David promptly jumped in and saved him, swimming to the bottom of the pool and pulling John out. The medical director came to know of David's heroic act. He immediately ordered that David be discharged from the hospital as he now considered him to be okay. The doctor said, "David, we have good news and bad news for you. The good news is that we are going to discharge you because you have regained your sanity. Since you were able to jump in and save another patient, you must be mentally stable. The bad news is that the patient that you saved hung himself in the bathroom and died after all." David replied, "Doctor, John didn't hang himself. I hung him there to dry." One day, a husband telephones his wife, but his daughter answers, "Hello?" "Hey, honey, this is Daddy. Is Mommy near the phone?" "No, Daddy. She's upstairs in the bedroom with Uncle Jake." "But you don't have an Uncle Jake, sweetie?" "Yes, I do, and he's upstairs in the bedroom with Mommy right now." "Okay, honey, I need you to go near the bedroom and shout, 'Daddy's car just pulled into the driveway,' and then come back and call me." A few minutes later, the daughter calls back, "I did it, Daddy." "Well, what happened?" "Mommy got scared, started running around, tripped and hit her head, and now she isn't moving." "Oh my God, and what about Uncle Jake?" "He too got scared and jumped out of the window into the swimming pool, but he forgot you took out the water last week and now he isn't moving as well." "Wait a minute, my house doesn't have a swimming pool. Wait, is this 351 to 7,381 inches? A young blonde was on vacation in the depths of Louisiana. She wanted a pair of genuine alligator shoes in the worst way, but was very reluctant to pay the high prices the local vendors were asking. After becoming very frustrated with the no-haggle attitude of one of the shopkeepers, the blonde shouted, "Maybe I'll just go out and catch my own alligator so I can get a pair of shoes at a reasonable price." The shopkeeper said, "By all means, be my guest. Maybe you'll luck out and catch yourself a big one." Determined, the blonde turned and headed for the swamps, set on catching herself an alligator. Later in the day, the shopkeeper was driving home when he spotted the young woman standing waist-deep in the water, shotgun in hand. Just then, he saw a huge 9-foot alligator swimming quickly toward her. She took aim, killed the creature, and with a great deal of effort, hauled it onto the swamp bank. Lying nearby were several more of the dead creatures. The shopkeeper watched in amazement. Just then, the blonde flipped the alligator on its back and, frustrated, shouted out, "Damn it! This one isn't wearing any shoes either!" A man lays sprawled across 3 entire seats at a posh theater. Before the show has even started, an usher walks by and notices the man. "Sir, you're only allowed 1 seat. Can you please sit up?" The man groans but stays where he is. The usher, becoming impatient with the man, says, "Sir, if you don't get up, I will need to get my manager involved." Again, the man just groans, which infuriates the usher as he marches off to get the manager. In a few moments, he returns with the manager, and they both repeatedly attempt to move him, but with no success. It was at this point that the manager called the police. Moments later, a police officer arrives and approaches the man. "All right, buddy, what's your name?" "Sam," the man moans. "And where are you from, Sam?" With pain in his voice, Sam replied, "The balcony." A priest, a doctor, and an engineer were waiting one morning for a particularly slow group of golfers. The engineer, quite upset, said, "What about them? We've had to wait here for 15 minutes. The doctor agreed. "I don't know, but I've never seen such incompetence." The priest said, "Hey, here comes the groundskeeper. Let's go talk to him. Hey, George, what's going on with that group ahead of us? They're pretty slow, aren't they?" The groundskeeper replied, "Ah, yes, that's the group of blind firemen. They lost their sight last year when they put out the fire in the clubhouse. We always let them play for free." The 3 became very quiet. Then the pastor said, "That's sad. I think I will pray for them tonight." The doctor, "Good idea. I'll check with my buddy the eye doctor. Maybe he can do something." The engineer, "Why don't the boys play at night?" A gorgeous young redhead on a flight from Ireland asked the priest beside her, "Father, may I ask a favor?" "Of course, child. What may I do for you?" Well, I bought my mother an expensive hairdryer for her birthday. It is unopened, but well over the customs limits, and I'm afraid they'll confiscate it. Is there any way you could carry it through customs for me? Hide it under your robes, perhaps? I would love to help you, dear, but I must warn you, I will not lie. With your honest face, Father, no one will question you, she replied. When they got to customs, she let the priest go first. The official asked, Father, do you have anything to declare? From the top of my head down to my waist, I have nothing to declare. The official thought this answer strange, so he asked, And what do you have to declare from your waist to the floor? Father replied, I have a marvelous instrument designed to be used on a woman, which is to date unused. Roaring with laughter, the official said, Go ahead, Father. Next, please. Two priests were playing golf. Father Bob hit his ball into the woods on his first swing. Damn it, that totally missed, he cursed. You shouldn't curse Father Bob, said Father Michael, or God might punish you. Father Bob apologized, and they went on playing. On his next swing, Father Bob hit his ball into the sand pit. Damn it, that totally missed, he cursed again. Again, Father Michael warned, Do not utter such words, Father Bob, lest God punishes you for it. Father Bob apologized again, and they continued playing. On his third swing, Father Bob hit his ball into the pond. Damn it, that totally missed, cursed Father Bob once again. Before Father Michael could say anything, an ominous dark cloud suddenly gathered out of the blue sky, and vicious lightning came down and struck Father Michael, killing him instantly. Father Bob was completely stunned. Before he could understand what was happening in front of him, he heard a thunderous, deep voice coming from the sky. Damn it, that totally missed. The day after his wife disappeared in a kayaking accident, an Anchorage man answered his door to find two grim-faced Alaska State Troopers. We're sorry, Mr. Wilkins, but we have some information about your wife, said one trooper. Tell me, did you find her? Wilkins shouted. The troopers looked at each other. One said, We have some bad news, some good news, and some really great news. Which do you want to hear first? Fearing the worst, an ashen Mr. Wilkins said, Give me the bad news first. The trooper said, I'm sorry to tell you, sir, but this morning we found your wife's body in Kachamak Bay. Oh, my God! Exclaimed Wilkins. Swallowing hard, he asked, What's the good news? The trooper continued, When we pulled her up, she had 12 25-pound king crabs and 6 good-sized Dungeness crabs clinging to her, and we feel you are entitled to a share in the catch. Stunned, Mr. Wilkins demanded, If that's the good news, what's the great news? The trooper said, We're going to pull her up again tomorrow. A German man walks into a McDonald's in the United States. After waiting in line, he finally gets to the counter and he orders a pint of beer because you can get beer at McDonald's in Germany. An American customer overhears the man's order and he approaches the German man and says, How could you be so stupid? You cannot order beer here, while laughing at the German man right to his face. The German man thinks for a second and then he starts laughing uncontrollably. Not just any laugh. This is a laugh so intense that he is struggling not to fall over. The American customer is no longer laughing. He now has a puzzled look on his face. He asks the German man, What's so funny? The German man says, I just realized that you came here for the food. A television crew comes to the farm to do an interview with the shepherd about his daily routine. Our viewers would like to know what a regular day here in the countryside looks like. Can you start right from the beginning? Asks the reporter. Oh yeah, sure, starts the shepherd. So first I wake up, but I really don't wanna. So I take a sip of my brandy to start off my day. Then I have to go out to release the sheep. I'm still quite sleepy, so I take 2 sips to make me go outside and 1 more to have energy to open the gate. Out in the field, I usually meet my pal, and we drink 2 whole bottles of brandy together, and then... Oh, I'm sorry, interrupts the reporter. We cannot really air that. Children are watching, and we don't want to make a bad impression. How about every time you drink, you say you read a book instead? Yeah, that makes sense, says the shepherd, and starts over. Well, the first thing in the morning, I wake up and read a page of my book. Then I go outside and read 2 more pages plus 1 more while opening the gate for the sheep. While out in the field, I usually meet my buddy and we read 2 books together. Then we return home while reading page after page and lock the sheep in the barn. Finally, at the end of the day, we go to town where my friend has a library and we read till the morning. A man comes home from a long day at work, plops down on the couch in front of the television and turns on the game. Without hesitation, he tells his wife, "Get me a beer before it starts." The wife sighs and gets him a beer. 15 minutes later, he says, "Get me another beer before it starts." She looks cross but fetches another beer and slams it down next to him. He quickly finishes that beer and a few minutes later says, "Quick, get me another beer, it's about to start." The wife is furious. She yells at him, "Is that all you're going to do tonight? Drink beer and sit in front of that TV? You're nothing but a lazy, drunken, fat slob, and furthermore—" Right then, a score of Redditors jumped into the comment section, typing furiously, "Saw this yesterday on another repost. It wasn't funny when I saw it 2 weeks ago, so—" The husband sighs. "It started." Every year, an elderly couple named George and Mary went to the county fair. One year, a man was offering helicopter rides for $50. George, who had never been in a helicopter before, asked Mary if they could go for a ride. Mary declined, saying, $50 is $50. The next year, the same man was there again, and George asked once more. Mary again said, $50 is $50. The third year, the same conversation happened, but this time the pilot overheard them. He offered George and Mary a free ride, with one condition: they must stay completely quiet during the flight, or they would have to pay the $50. George and Mary agreed and boarded the helicopter. As soon as they took off, the pilot performed some thrilling maneuvers, but the couple stayed silent the whole time. When they landed, the pilot praised their self-control and said, "You earned this free ride." George smiled and said, "I almost said something when Mary fell out, but $50 is $50. An elderly couple was celebrating their 75th wedding anniversary. The husband took his wife's hand and said, "There's something I've always wondered about. Our 10th child never quite looked like the others. I want you to know these 75 years have been the best of my life, and nothing will change that. But I have to ask, did he have a different father?" The wife lowered her gaze, then softly confessed, "Yes, he did." The husband was stunned, struggling to process what she said. With tears in his eyes, he asked, "Who was it? Who was the father?" After a pause, the wife looked up and said with a gentle smile, "You." A sailor dropped anchor in a new port and walked into the nearest pub. Everyone was staring and whispering because his body was unusually muscular, but his head looked very small in comparison. When he ordered a drink, he smiled and said, "I always get noticed for this. You see, I once caught a mermaid who promised me 3 wishes if I let her go. For my first wish, I asked for a yacht, and just like that, it appeared. Then I wished for $1 million, and now I'm set for life. For my last wish, I asked to be with her, but she looked at me and said, 'I don't know how that would work with your unique physique.' So I said, 'Well, how about a little help then?'" The whole pub burst out laughing, and the sailor just raised his glass with a wink. Recently, a routine police patrol was parked outside a bar in the outback. After last call, the officer noticed a man leaving the bar so apparently intoxicated that he could barely walk. The man stumbled around the parking lot for a few minutes, with the officer quietly observing. After what seemed an eternity, in which he tried his keys on 5 different vehicles, the man managed to find his car and fall into it. He sat there for a few minutes as a number of other patrons left the bar and drove off. Finally, he started the car, switched the wipers on and off. It was a fine, dry summer night. Flicked the blinkers on and off a couple of times, honked the horn, and then switched on the lights. He moved the vehicle forward a few inches, reversed a little, and then remained still for a few more minutes as some more of the other patrons' vehicles left. At last, when his was the only car left in the parking lot, he pulled out and drove slowly down the road. The police officer, having waited patiently all this time, now started up his patrol car, put on the flashing lights, and promptly pulled the man over and administered a breathalyzer test. To his amazement, the breathalyzer indicated no evidence that the man had consumed any alcohol at all. Dumbfounded, the officer said, "I'll have to ask you to accompany me to the police station. This breathalyzer equipment must be broken." "I doubt it," said the truly proud redneck. "Tonight, I'm the designated decoy." A train machinist, a ship captain, and a truck driver are sitting in a bar and sharing their stories. The ship captain: "Our house is close to the harbor, so every time I am back from sailing and my ship is passing our house, I give the honk. So every time I am home, the food is on the table, my wife is hot and ready, and I get my special welcome home treatment." The train machinist: "Same here. We live close to the railroad. So when coming back from a long trip, I signal when passing by our house. Now when I come home, my wife greets me in lingerie, with dinner on the table, and the bed warmed and ready for us." The truck driver: "Yeah, almost same here. Our house is downhill in the street, so whenever I come back home, I shut off the engine on the hill, roll down to the house, take my wrench, ring on the front door, and run to the back door. None of them has escaped yet." A beautiful woman went up to the bar in a quiet rural pub. She gestured alluringly to the bartender, who approached her immediately. The woman seductively signaled that he should bring his face closer to hers. As he did, she gently caressed his full beard. "Are you the manager?" she asked, softly stroking his face with both hands. "Actually, no," he replied. "Can you get him for me? I need to speak to him," she said, running her hands beyond his beard and into his hair. "I'm afraid I can't," breathed the bartender. "Is there anything I can do?" "Yes, I need for you to give him a message," she continued, running her forefinger across the bartender's lip and slyly popping a couple of her fingers into his mouth and allowing him to suck them gently. "What should I tell him?" The flustered bartender managed to stammer. "Tell him," she whispered, "there's no toilet paper, hand soap, or paper towels in the ladies' room." A policeman was interrogating 3 guys who were training to become detectives. To test their skills in recognizing a suspect, he shows the first guys a picture for 5 seconds and then hides it. "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him?" The first guy answers, "That's easy. We'll catch him fast because he only has one eye." The policeman says, "Well, that's because the picture I showed is his side profile." Slightly flustered by this ridiculous response, he flashes the picture for 5 seconds at the second guy and asks him, "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him?" The second guy smiles, flips his hair, and says, "Ha! He'd be too easy to catch because he only has one ear." The policeman angrily responds, "What's the matter with you two? Of course only one eye and one ear are showing because it's a picture of his side profile. Is that the best answer you can come up with?" Extremely frustrated at this point, he shows the picture to the third guy and in a very testy voice asks, "This is your suspect. How would you recognize him?" He quickly adds, "Think hard before giving me a stupid answer." The third guy looks at the picture intently for a moment and says, "The suspect wears contact lenses." The policeman is surprised and speechless because he really doesn't know himself if the suspect wears contacts or not. "Well, that's an interesting answer. Wait here for a few minutes while I check his file and I'll get back to you on that." He leaves the room and goes to his office, checks the suspect's file on his computer, and comes back with a beaming smile on his face. "Wow, I can't believe it. It's true. The suspect does, in fact, wear contact lenses. Good work. How were you able to make such an astute observation?" "That's easy," the third guy replied. "He can't wear regular glasses because he only has one eye and one ear." A lady decided to give herself a big treat for her 50th birthday by staying overnight in a really nice, luxurious hotel. The following morning, she was appalled when the desk clerk gave her a bill for $250. She requested to know why the charge was too high. "It's a nice hotel, but the rooms certainly aren't worth $250 for just an overnight stay. I didn't even have breakfast," she told the clerk. The clerk clarified that $250 is the standard rate. At that point, the older lady insisted on talking with the manager. The manager showed up and explained that the hotel has an Olympic-sized pool and a huge conference center which are available for use. "But I didn't use them," the old woman said. "Well, they are here, and you could have," he replied. The manager proceeded with that she could likewise have seen one of the in-hotel shows for which the hotel is famous. "We have the best entertainers from the world over performing here," he said. "But I didn't go to any of those shows," she said. The manager replied, "Well, we have them and you could have—" Regardless of what facility he recommended, the older lady would just answer, "But I didn't use it." The manager then countered with his standard reaction. After several minutes of contending with him, she chose to pay. The manager was shocked when she gave the check to him. "But madam, this check is for only $50, he said. "That is right. I charged you $200 for sleeping with me," the old lady replied. "But I didn't," the manager shouted. "Well, too bad I was here and you could have." A woman decided to have a facelift for her birthday. She spent $5,000 and felt really good about the results. On her way home, she stopped at a dress shop to look around. As she was leaving, she said to the sales clerk, "I hope you don't mind me asking, but how old do you think I am?" "About 35, he replied. "I'm actually 47, the woman said, feeling really happy. After that, she went into McDonald's for lunch and asked the order taker the same question. He replied, "Oh, you look about 29. "I am actually 47, she said, feeling really good. While standing at the bus stop, she asked an old man the same question. He replied, "I am 85 years old and my eyesight is going. But when I was young, there was a sure way of telling a woman's age. If I put my hand up your skirt, I will be able to tell your exact age." There was no one around, so the woman said, "What the hell?" and let him slip his hand up her skirt. After feeling around for a while, the old man said, "Okay, you are 47. Stunned, the woman said, "That was brilliant. How did you do that?" The old man replied, "I was behind you in line at McDonald's." An Italian father wants to give his son a gun for his 18th birthday. "As is tradition in Italy, I'm going to give you a gun for your 18th birthday," the father says. "But I don't want a gun. What about a nice watch? I would really like a watch, like a Rolex or something." The son replies, "Son," the father sighs, "this is an Italian tradition. You're going to get a gun for your birthday." "I really don't want a gun. I want a nice watch," the son says. "Listen," the father says in a more serious tone, "you're going to get older, and you're going to marry a beautiful woman. One day you come home, walk into the living room, and she isn't there. You go into the kitchen, and she isn't there. Then you walk upstairs to the bedroom, and you're going to find your wife sleeping with your best friend. What are you going to do? Point at your watch and say, 'Time's up'?" The lion decided to invite everyone to his birthday party, but him being the king, he ordered everybody to bring him meat as a present, or else he will hit them with his massive dong. And soon the day came, and all the animals lined up front of the lion's cave with their presents. The wolf wanted to gift the king a lamb, the fox had a chicken, the leopard an antelope, and so on. The lion greeted all of his guests and welcomed them to the party. Suddenly, the rabbit stood in front of him with a carrot. All guests went silent. The lion looked him in the eyes and said, "You know what this means, right?" The rabbit trembled and said, "I am so sire, I couldn't find any me, Isa, bam!" The rabbit fell to the ground with tears in his eyes. Then he stood up and started laughing. The lion looked at him in confusion and asked, "Are you okay? Why are you laughing?" The rabbit, "Oh, it is nothing, Lord. I just remembered that the hedgehog is down the line bringing you an apple." One day, little Jenny walked into the kitchen and asked her mom, "Mommy, how old are you?" Her mom smiled and said, "Sweetie, you should never ask a woman her age." "Why not?" Jenny asked. "Because it's not polite. You'll understand when you're older." Jenny thought for a moment, then asked, "Mommy, how much do you weigh?" "Jenny," her mom said, "that's not a polite question either." Jenny was quiet for a second, then tried again. "Mommy, why did you and Daddy get a divorce?" With a sigh, her mom replied, "That's something I'll explain when you're older." Jenny wasn't satisfied. The next day, her friend at school gave her a tip. "Just check your mom's driver's license. It has all that info on it." So when Jenny got home, she peeked in her mom's purse, found the license, and studied it carefully. That evening, she marched back into the kitchen with a big grin. "Mommy, I know how old you are. You're 36. Her mom looked surprised. "And I know how much you weigh. 135 pounds. "Jenny, where did you learn this?" her mom asked. Jenny just smirked and said, "And I know why you and Daddy got a divorce." Shocked, her mom gasped, "Why?" Jenny proudly announced, "Because you got an F in sex." A girl tells her mother after school, "Mom, I got a gold star today for reciting the whole alphabet. The rest of my class only knows 3 or 4 letters." "Well done, darling," the girl's mother replies. "That's because you're blonde." After returning from school the next day, the girl tells her mother, "I am the smartest student in my maths class. I can count up to 15. Everyone else stopped at about 5. "Well done," replies the mother again. "That's because you're blonde." The following day, the girl says to her mother, "Mom, today we measured our chests in class and mine is the largest. Is that because I'm blonde?" "No, darling, that's because you're 18. A boy and a girl lost in the jungle. They hadn't eaten in 4 days and both were feeling weak. The girl, desperate, turned to the boy and said, "All right, you have to do something for me. Just give your package inside me." The boy, confused, asked, "Why? What's going on?" The girl, looking at her empty stomach, replied, "Dude, something has to go in." A man has his mother-in-law move in with him when she lost her job. About a week later, he returns home from his job and finds her laying on the floor, unconscious. He calls 911. The ambulance comes and takes her off to the hospital. He calls his wife and tells her she may have to cut her business trip short, but he'll keep her posted. He gets to the hospital and waits outside the surgery, nervous and pacing. Soon the doctor comes out and says he has some good news and some bad news. "Give me the bad news first, Doc." "Well, your mother-in-law had a massive stroke. She's lost her ability to speak and can only cackle like a chicken." The man nods his head. "She's also lost all motor control to her arms and legs, so not only won't she be able to walk, she won't even be able to feed herself. You'll have to feed her baby food for the rest of her life, every day, 3 times a day." Somberly, the man nods, so the doctor continues. "Without any motor control, she'll also be incontinent, so she'll have to wear diapers for the rest of her life. You'll have to clean her and put a new diaper on her several times a day for the rest of her life." The man nods, processing all this information in his brain, then looks to the doctor and asks, "That's some pretty bad news. But you said you had some good news. What's the good news?" "The good news is I'm just joking with you. She died." A man is driving through the backwoods of Montana when he spots a sign in front of a rundown shack. "Talking dog for sale." Curious, he knocks on the door. An old-timer answers and tells him the dog is in the backyard. The man steps out back and finds a well-groomed Labrador sitting there. "You talk?" he asks. "Yep," the lab replies. The man's jaw drops. Once he gathers himself, he says, "Okay, what's your story?" The dog sighs and begins, "Well, I discovered I could talk when I was a pup. Figured I should put my gift to good use, so I told the CIA. They immediately recruited me, and before I knew it, I was flying all over the world, sitting in rooms with world leaders and spies. Nobody ever suspected a dog could be eavesdropping. I was their top agent for 8 years, but all the travel wore me out. So I took a job doing undercover security at the airport. I sniffed out smugglers, exposed criminals, and even earned a few medals. Then I met the love of my life, settled down, had a bunch of puppies, and retired. Now I just take it easy." The man is stunned. He hurries back inside and asks the owner, "How much for the dog?" $10, the old man says. $10? This dog is incredible. Why so cheap?" The owner shakes his head. "Because he's a liar. He's never left the yard." Ma was in the kitchen fiddling around when she hollers out, "Pa, you need to go out and fix the outhouse." Pa replies, there isn't anything wrong with the outhouse. Ma yells back, yes, there is. Now get out there and fix it. So Pa moseys out to the outhouse, looks around and yells back, Ma, there isn't anything wrong with the outhouse. Ma replies, stick your head in the hole? Pa yells back, I'm not sticking my head in that hole. Ma says, you have to stick your head in the hole to see what to fix. So with that, Pa sticks his head in the hole, looks around, and yells back, Ma, there isn't anything wrong with this outhouse. Ma hollers back, now take your head out of the hole. Pa proceeds to pull his head out of the hole, then starts yelling, Ma, help! My beard is stuck in the cracks in the toilet seat. To which Ma replies, hurts, don't it?